Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Alrighty. All right, welcome back, everybody. Well, early this morning, tonight, however you want to break this down, I'm going to talk about one of the most misunderstood rights you have when dealing with police. That's the right to say no, even after you have already said yes. Now, when police knock on your door or pull you over and ask, do you mind if we take a look? That's not a command. That's a request. If you say yes, you have given consent. Or one of those, I don't care what you do. You are giving consent. But here's the key. Consent is not a blank check. It's not forever and it's not unlimited. And it can be withdrawn at any time. Now, think of consent like a guest in your home. You can invite them in, but you can also have the right to tell them to leave. The Constitution, specifically the Fourth Amendment, protects you from unreasonable searches, and the Supreme Court has been very clear. Consent searches are only valid as long as consent is given and maintained. There's one of those words again. If, and or. These are the words that police officers love to ignore or leave out. And I'm going to read that one more time. The Supreme Court has made very clear consensual searches are only valid as long as consent is given and maintained. So cases like Schnerkloff v. Bustamante, and that's SCHNECKLOTH v. BUSTAMONTE, remind us that consent must be voluntary, not coerced. Florida v. Hamino tells us consent is limited in scope. And if you say yes to a trunk search, that does not mean police can rip apart your back seats. And the moment you say stop, that's enough, the search has to end unless the police have developed independent probable cause. Now, here's the caveat to that. Police don't know what probable cause is. Malloy v. Hogan, which is why they must get consent or a warrant because of Jordan v. City of New England. Notice how all these cases I've been talking about are tying together and putting together to make sense of all these other little things that I've been speaking about. Now they become one big thing. Now, in this episode, I'm going to break down why this right exists, how the courts have upheld it, and what police procedures say about it. And most importantly, how you can assert it without hesitation. By the end, you'll know exactly what to say, how to say it, and how to hold these police officers accountable when they overstep. All right, so let's get into it. Now, the foundation of consent in searches is the Fourth Amendment basics. It's protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. The consent searches have as an exception to the warrant requirement because, again, they need your consent. Why? Jordan v. City of Prince. IQ's lower than 104. Malloy v. Hogan. They don't know what probable cause is. The warrant requirement. This is the exception to the warrant requirement. You must allow them because they are servants until there's a crime. Because they must work towards your benefit. They are amenable to you at all times. All of these things are starting to tie together because these cases, we make them more difficult because we try to attempt to leave them separate when in fact it's together is what makes them strong. Now, again, Schneckloff v. Bustamante, 1973 case, consent must be freely and voluntarily given, and there must be no evidence of coercion. So if an officer is overstepping and asserting something that is not allowed, you can then hold them responsible for their overreach. Florida v. Hamino, 1991. Consent is limited to the scope granted by the individual. This is the most important part. The scope that you grant. So whenever you're just well, I don't care what you do what you want to. No. That's the answer. No. At no time do you have to participate in a police investigation. Let them investigate. They are the ones responsible for the totality of circumstances. Always remember that. You are not a police officer, so you do not have to participate in their investigation. You don't even have to talk. You are not required to do anything because you are not the servant. They are exercising discretion to speak to you. It's your choice and your discretion if you want to have the conversation or not. Always understand that. And the key takeaway, consent searches exist only because you allow them. I'm going to say that one more time because this is where we take responsibility for the things that we are allowing and we are doing. Consent searches exist because you allow them. No consent, no search unless there's a warrant or other legal exception. And I gave you the grounds for the exigent circumstances. Always understand that. You are the master. Act like it. This is where you have power. And when it happens, this is where you start holding them accountable. Because withdrawing consent is your absolute right. Consent is ongoing, not permanent. Case law, United States v. Saunders is 2001. Consent can be withdrawn at any time. Say that one more time because I just said consent is limited to the scope granted by the individual. Went from Florida to United States v. Saunders in the Sixth Circuit. Consent can be withdrawn at any time. Now, here's where we talk about specificity. United States v. McWeeny, again, Ninth Circuit, 2001. Withdrawal must be clear and unequivocal. God dang, let me take a sip because maybe it's too early or too late. I can't even tell which one it is right now. United States v. McWeeny. Withdrawal must be clear and unequivocal. Goodness, still messing it up. Anyway, what that means is I do not consent. You can stop searching now. This search is over. I withdraw consent. These are clear and concise, making sure there is no wiggle room for them to keep going and then hold you liable for something that they find. Now, United States v. Ward, 10th Circuit, 2006. Once withdrawn, officers must stop unless probable cause exists. Once withdrawn, Officers must stop. If they choose not to stop, you can hold them liable for that because now they are no longer acting as a police officer. Always keep that in mind. Police procedure Police procedure manuals instruct officers once consent is revoked, the search must stop unless legal grounds exist. Here's where the great part. Emphasize withdrawal of consent as a critical moment to challenge admissibility of evidence. You can also show on their body cameras. And hell, if you come to my house, you can come and enjoy one of the many cameras I have in here and show that consent was withdrawn. And this is one of the rights that you don't have to do in writing. You have to be vocal and be clear and concise. That's it. Because remember I talked about the other one. It must be withdrawn in writing. Any right that you're giving up must be done in writing. This is not one of those. Consent is an oral action. Always understand that. And then there's this thing that police would use if you're not clear and concise is implied consent. That's why they frame it. You don't mind if. Because no matter, yes, I mind. Or yes. You don't mind if we search? Yes. Now, you might be saying, yes, I do mind, but that yes is a vocal, I can go look because you just given me consent. Now, understand, this is why whenever you look at these videos, like Officer Thomas, he pulls a young man over, and the young man is in handcuffs because he's asking the officer, why are you pulling me over? Why do you need me out the car? Because again, he must articulate why he made the stop. He didn't do that. When he said get out the vehicle, he must articulate the ongoing threat to his safety because that is the only reason he can ask him out the vehicle. And then when he commenced to search, he said, officer, I didn't give you consent. He also didn't have exigent circumstances. He was more than 8 feet or at arm's reach from the vehicle. So whatever evidence he pulled him over for could not be destroyed. Every aspect of that stop was illegal. And this is one of the things that you talked about. Because now, not only can you hold him liable civilly, there is nothing that he can use as evidence in this case, period. Because he did not follow not only Supreme Court decisions and law, he didn't follow police procedures. Always understand being clear. And I did not give you permission. I did not offer you consent. These are the things that need to be said because these are the things that need to be understood and articulated properly. Now, here's a police tactic that, again, police officers do. Because officers often try to blur the lines because they're not taught to do law. They're taught to manipulate and generate revenue. And I say this over and over and over again. And most people think it's a joke or whatever. Or I don't know what I'm talking about. But yet we keep seeing it time after time after time after time after time. Because I'm gonna give you an example today. I went to I don't even know why it popped up, but it was a pro police officers like page. And they were actually going out and showing Officer Peter Burglar. They actually showed his body camera because he released it. Why? Because he actually thought he did the right thing. Here's the thing. They went to say, oh, well, this guy, he did this, he did that. Now, the video showed that he never swung at the officer. That's one. Video showed that he was never resisting arrest. That's two. He also showed that Peter Baller was out of his jurisdiction. That's number three. Number 4, the video showed that he lied in his police report. Number 5, he also showed that he did not, he omitted some things that he did and said, which means he committed perjury, which solidified the fact that I called him a bad officer. But however, it was amazing that the people were on his side. And then whenever I posted all the things he did wrong, they deleted my post, my response. And that's what let me know most people think this is okay until it happens to them, because 90% of people have no idea what the police procedures are or how to apply them or how to go about challenging them. And this is one of the reasons why I do this, because they'll do things and claim implied consent. And then they'll act as if your silence is consent, when in fact they can't. I've actually put up that case. They can't use your silence against you. And if they can't use that as implied consent, therefore they aren't doing their job properly. And I always emphasize the fact that no one asks or requires a police officer to do the job of policing properly. Why? Because most people don't have any clue of what a police officer is supposed to do. That's why a lot of stuff that I say, a lot of times seem foreign to you, because I'm saying things that go against everything that you are taught to believe. Because even when you continuing after you withdraw your consent, that is a police policy violation along with a law violation, which makes it illegal and a criminal act, which now you can sue them for because they are going outside the scope of their duties. This is why I do this, because even the training manuals, officers are taught to get consent to avoid needing probable cause. That's why I smell. Well, cool. That's great that you smell. Still sound like you need a warrant. Because if you believe it's probable cause, that's now you need to put it in the affidavit. And also note that you smelled it in your police report. Because when you don't find anything and you don't get the warrant, I'm going to sue you. And make sure that's when you shoot up at hit the link, set up the consultation, and have your money ready so we can go ahead and tap those pockets. Because this is the point that I'm trying to make, because the tactics they're not tactics for Georgia, they're not tactics for Texas, they're not tactics for Michigan, they're not tactics for Detroit, they're not tactics for, these are the tactics for police, period. They're not changing from state to state. They're doing the exact same thing everywhere. I haven't gone anywhere. Now, the excessiveness it varies from place to place, but it's nothing like the contradiction between being in Atlanta versus being here in El Paso. It's literally night and day. But at the same time, you have a city that has grown violence with a bunch of ignorance and a bunch of stuff that just happens, to a place that is one of the safest cities in America for the past 10 years since I've been here. But again, understanding what you want to do when you're setting this up to defend yourself against it, document the moment consent was withdrawn. Because again, if you're riding around without a dash camera, shame on you. If you're at your home and you don't have cameras, shame on you, because you're not going to get the body cam footage. And when you do, it's going to be heavily redacted. Probably not going to have sound, or it's going to be missing something, because they're not going to incriminate themselves. Now, but here's also the thing too. I talked about keeping your mind sharp, getting car numbers, looking at times, being aware of your surroundings when these things are happening. Now, if ignored, file a motion to suppress and set up a MAP hearing. Again, if you choose not to holler at your boy, Make sure you understand the verbiage that's needed to make sure this is effective and it's done in accordance to the court where you are able to win with it. So understand that. Now, I'm going to give you a few, I gave you a couple of like just throwouts. The verbal withdrawal is to be clear, concise, and direct. I no longer consent to the search. That is one of the easiest and that's probably the best one to use. I no longer consent to this search. And then make note if they are continuing to search. The next one, which again they'll attempt to try to stop you, is step between the officer and the property if it's safe for you to do. Now, I don't recommend that. However, you can attempt it because most of them are trained cowards. They're going to use it as an excuse that you are being aggressive. Because remember I told you, they're training police officers that everyone is out to hurt them. So any sudden movements is going to scare the bejeebers out of them, and they may do something if they are not well maintained, and most are not. Now, recording. Document withdrawal on video. Record everything. Because like I say, it's the only place you got any privacy in my house is in the bathroom. Everywhere else, there's a camera. And I want you to understand, hell, in my bedroom, there's several cameras. And understand, it's done that way specifically because we don't play them type games. If we're riding around, video's going. If I'm in the house, video's going. Because I want you to know that I don't trust you. I don't want you comfortable in my house. Hell, it's mine. And here's the thing, I might actually have to do a video about the cameras whenever they go to obstruct your cameras. Now, avoid resistance. Withdraw consent legally, not physically. Yeah, don't throw your hands up. Don't put your hands on nobody. Just say, hey, this is done. Go get your warrant. If you think you have probable cause, sound like a warrant affidavit is in court. Well, we don't want to have to do it. Cool, I don't give a shit because I don't want you here. I didn't call you. And now always understand that. Officer, I gave you permission to search. I am now revoking that permission. Stop. I do not consent to any further searches. These are the easiest. These are the ones that make sure there's no ambiguity. You know what? There's no confusion. How about that? Because I can't even get it out. Like I said, I don't know if it's too late or if it's too early. But what I do know is, I do not consent is always the first thing out of my mouth. Nope, and I do not consent. Can I have your license? Nope. I do not consent. Now, again, one of your strategies would be argue suppression under the exclusionary rule if search continues after withdrawal. You're going to attack the credibility of the officer if they claim no withdrawal occurred and highlight inconsistencies. Now, here are two things that are there. Like, again, I use myself as the example on this one because I actually had an officer who attempted to search my vehicle. And I laughed. And I told him, I said, you understand habit evidence? He goes, yes. I said, well, now you're going to have to explain how I'm the age I am. And since I was a little person, I have never given consent. So now you're going to say at some point and write down in your report that I gave you consent, but I didn't give the 100 others that pulled me over and that I've had an interaction with. I've never given them, but you're the special one. Understand that. I've never given consent. So the habit would be Now you got to convince what made you special. I ran one time. Too fat for that. Too slow for it too. I'm not running. Ain't no need for me to be aggressive. I want to go to court. So I'm not going to resist. But I'm going after everything you believe you love, because these are the things that are habit evidence. I don't miss court. I'm ready for the fight. I want the fight. Matter of fact, I want to see if you're as good as you think you are. Because I am as good as I believe I am. And I'm getting better, which is scary to me. Because how do you get older and get better at what you do? Like just getting old and just it ain't even fine wine. I'm a nice cognac. I'm an aged scotch. Understand that. I want you to get into it, because understanding the big picture is you are always in control unless you give it away. Always understand that. That's the whole context of everything that I'm teaching. You are more powerful than you believe. Because I actually did a video where I spoke about that. It is not our darkness that we fear the most. It is our light. But it's our light that allows others to let their light shine as well. You do not have to shrink to be anything that they're servants. Treat them that way. Make them do their job properly. And if they don't, take their certification. Yeah, don't just sue them. That's light work. That's easy. Take their livelihood, because they're trying to take yours every time they want to pull you over and arrest you and all this. They're trying to take your livelihood. That's design of the system so they can keep you locked up. Do that to them. Stop being a victim and start being the predator they are. Become the monster. Because even if it's something simple, don't let the simple shit slide. Show them that it's not okay to not do their job properly. Because I actually told the cop, if you didn't want me to do this, you should not have talked to me, because you had officer discretion. You made a conscious choice to wake the monster. And I always talk about a fool with a purpose, because that's what I am. And I don't mind being it. Now, and when you're going after the officer and you're attacking their credibility, a lot of times what they're not going to do is, when you ask for their Jiggly information, they'll give you the one report that has nothing on it. No, you hold their feet to the fire and get all of the officer's information. And if they choose not to give it to you, you then hold the prosecutor liable. Subpoena it. Make sure that there's a consequence. File motions for sanctions. Tap those pockets. There's a whole plethora of things that can be done. Now, use chain of custody challenges. If evidence collected after withdrawal, argue contamination and illegality. Cite Supreme Court cases and appellate precedents aggressively. And then remind the jury that consent is a personal autonomy, and when violated, the evidence is tainted, because those are called jury instructions. Now, why this right matters. Without the ability to withdraw consent, police could exploit fear or confusion, which again is the attempt, because the uniform is designed a certain way to exploit that. The badge is designed and programmed into you to make or solicit the responses of fear and coercion. So this way, if you actually get the nuts to say, no, you can't do it, that shows that you're standing up for yourself, and it also takes the power away from them that they believe they have. Protects your privacy, dignity, and your freedoms. Because again, if you give up one freedom for comfort, you don't deserve either one of them. and it prevents goodness, man. Yeah, I think it is too. I'm about to start wrapping this up. I don't know if I'm just tired or what, but it prevents fishing expeditions and harassment, because these are generally the designs of what's happening. They don't have anything. They know they haven't had a law or anything that they can get a warrant for, so they attempt to intimidate you, to go ahead and bully you, to actually create something that's not there. And it reinforces that the people, not the government, control the boundaries of consent. That's why I gave you the Supreme Court cases. So, the Fourth Amendment is not a suggestion. It's a shield. When you consent to a search, you hold the key. You can unlock the door and you can close it again. The Supreme Court has made it clear. Consent is voluntary. Consent is limited. Consent is revocable. The moment you withdraw, the search must stop. If officers continue, they are breaking the law, and any evidence they seize can and should be thrown out of court. And they can be held liable. You can go after their post certifications. There is a remedy for you if you choose to follow it. And I tell you all the time, you're not powerless. You are powerful. You just need to want to exercise your power. You're not at the mercy of law enforcement. You have the God-given inalienable rights, real rights, and the power to enforce them. And that's the separation with, I tell everybody, they'll give you something. They'll tell you, oh, that's a violation. How do you enforce it? And they get quiet. How do you enforce it? What do you do? Oh, well, you'll file this. Okay, when they don't do it, what's next? They can't answer that. That's the separation that I always talk about. I'm different because I understand the process. Not just here. I understand it on multitudes of levels. I show you how to apply it. This is why when we're putting these down and you're actually seeing more live shows, it's because I'm more available now, and I'm also more passionate about the thing that we call law and life. So just getting this together is remembering the most powerful phrase in this content is I do not consent. Period. You are not required to participate. I've given you 6 this show. 6 Supreme Court, 6 laws that are applicable just to searches. You are more powerful than you believe, because it's not our darkness that we fear. It is our light. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine so you can allow your light to shine as well. Thank you for listening. And until next time, protect your rights, protect your freedoms, and never forget, knowledge is your strongest defense. And I'm Supreme.